after action report for the combined fleet operation on the 19th of November 2023. Once again, this is from the 4th Naval Division perspective, although this time we were more involved with the overall strategic planning, or at least the initial strategic planning, as we'll see what happened later on. So let us begin from the beginning. So this was supposed to be the follow-up operation to the Blue is Fading operation, which happened the weekend prior. That was the one where we had the Battle of Java Sea, went into exile, successful invasion of that island, took it over, built it up. We lost it later on during the week, but that was okay. It was mainly to try test out amphibious assault capabilities, which went very, very well. Now, here on the Wednesday of the 15th, so 3-4 days after that invasion, the main planning for this invasion started. So on Wednesday, it was mainly me, my boys, about 8 of us, and Roxu from 3rd Marine, which was the point man for both invasions. He was the one that organized both of them. We went out on a reconnaissance run and checked out the 2 beachheads on Axehead, the western and the eastern. We didn't consider the seaport area because there wasn't enough room to land the kind of forces that we were going to mobilize here. But if you wanted to do something smaller, but considering how this one went, I think that was like the very, very good decision not to go straight from the seaport, even though it's the closest route to the town base. It's not practical. So on Wednesday, we went and started doing the reconnaissance for the main operation here. The plan that we came up with was that we were going to attack the eastern beachhead. First of all, because it was lightly defended compared to the western side. The western side was fully conked up at that point. On the eastern side, however, it was pretty weak, especially for a destroyer. It shouldn't have much problem trying to break through that. So we picked that. Now, it was already agreed upon right after the reconnaissance that the only way this was going to succeed was that if we break through and get to the town base within 20 minutes. Because if we don't do that, by that time, the enemy would have plenty of time to have mobilized any of the randoms or any kind of regiment that was on QRF standby. They would have been able to deploy, and we wouldn't be able to get enough manpower or firepower to break through to the town base at that point. So it was imperative that we got the fleet to this point on the eastern beachhead without being detected, start the shore bombardment at the same time as the landing forces started to make their way towards the beachhead. And that should have been the priority, to get the timing right, to get the bombardment and the amphibious element on time, on target at the same point. Now, we double-checked the ranges for the coastal guns, so we found the extent of the area which we could land the landing craft without being bombarded by it, and the distance between that point and the point of the defenses that we needed to breach to get to the town base. That was all calculated, and we figured that the risk was it was all right to take that risk, basically. It's around this time as well that I specifically asked that we have at least 2 to 4 guys who are completely dedicated to just managing the CV to bring along, so that once we breach the defenses and knock out the base, that we are already on point to go in and take it out. Because we know that there are multiple bunker base cores across Axehead and Protoss, and there's a good chance one of them already has a forward deployment point. So it's important that once it's taken out, that any kind of counterattack that could potentially arise is stopped, basically, once we get in and take the town base. But as far as I know, that part there got left out again, and it's really disappointing because I've been in so many operations as big as this where everyone makes the big plans, but everyone doesn't really care about getting the objective done because everyone's just glory hunting at this point. Now, as far as I know, Roxu and I are completely eye to eye on regarding all of the plans, all the preparations of what the objectives are and how we want to achieve that. It's everything below us and after this reconnaissance op and the planning that just completely broke down, which once again is exactly the same thing that happened with the last naval operation on Tuesday. And as I said before, it's a recurring theme that I've seen in Foxhole over the last year or so. So there's that. Now, the initial H hour was on Saturday, all right? But we postponed it 24 hours. Now, why did we do that? The big reason why was that KSR came to me and Roxer and said that they had tried a pre-op bombardment on Friday, which I didn't understand why we had to do that, because if we do that, we're already tipping off our hand where we're going and what we want to do, which was another point that I raised at the time of the pre-op planning and also just before the operation where they decided to do another pre-op bombardment, which made absolutely no sense to me. We postponed it for 24 hours because we needed a battleship. Well, at least that's what KSR told me and Roxu, that we did not have enough firepower to break through the defenses. Now, at this point in time, as far as I know, because KSR and the 3rd Marines, they're all Polish, they usually are in their Discord talking Polish, and I assume that they were in constant communication regarding the planning, because that's how it worked out for the previous operation. And as I've said, me and Roxu see the eye to eye on everything. He's relaying the information that we discuss and trying to put that down the chain of command here. But considering what I saw on the day of the invasion and what I just saw just prior to recording this video regarding the state of the defenses, it puts into question the decision making regarding postponing it for 24 hours, and it also puts into question what it was that our shore bombardment guys were doing, because it doesn't look like to me that we did anything that helped to try to achieve the plan that we had laid out and try to achieve the objectives that we had we had we had sought to achieve, basically, if that makes sense. I think I'll just go along with the video and show what it'll make more sense once I start showing the pictures here. So this was the initial plan here. Voxu actually has a very short video where it's an animated video regarding the steps and the procedures that we wanted to attack. This one here is just a mock thing that I drew up for my guys, because we were fleet defense and we were supposed to set the screens and provide reconnaissance for the fleet. So, but the idea was here, this eastern beachhead right here. We're going to set up the base ship and the storage ship, have the destroyer and the battleship set up on the coastline here, which was at the time of the reconnaissance, at the time of the invasion, and afterwards now as doing the damage assessment, it was pretty much safe to conduct the bombardment there. They only had about 4 or 5 howitzer garrisons pointed around this side, of which I think 2 of them were also pointed to the west side. So the main breach point here that was agreed upon was still weak as far as I can tell. So if we just go on here to the footage. So this is the footage from the reconnaissance op on Wednesday. And then after that, I'm going to show you footage of the reconnaissance op that I just did prior to recording of this video, which is Monday morning. So let us... okay. Just mute the audio. Okay. So this is the western beachhead, right? We're approaching it from, this is the eastern beachhead. We're approaching it from the east. We're looking west. So to the left here is where to the left and front is where the town base is. And this is the point that we wanted to bombard to make the hole so that we have the fastest route possible to the town base. So here's what we see here. All the garrison houses, mortar house, some facilities off to the left there, more garrison houses. That's town base right there. Remember, this is from the eastern beachhead, and we're pretty close. So the point where I'm standing is already technically in coastal gun range, but just to a few meters to the right of me, that's outside coastal gun range. You can deploy landing craft, barges, whatever you want, just right outside where I'm standing, and you won't get hit by the coastal gun, basically. But this is the main core defense that's between us, the town base, and the beachhead, in between the beachhead and town base, basically. This right here. They had just finished conking up this core right here, and what's going to happen from this point until the invasion is that they're going to start building howitzer garrisons on these pieces here. But the rest of these pieces here, as far as I can tell, they remained at tier 2 throughout the entire the entire planning of the operation. Yeah, so there, if you I rewind it there to the map, just right out here, that's the coastal gun range. So you can land anything and everything just above this pier point here, and then walk or drive your infantry and armor down right through there. And past this, there's nothing. It's just the garrison houses on the sides here, and that bob court is right there. Now this is the other side of the beach. This is the western side beachhead. Um, there's a big gap between here and these two pieces, and everything along this entire coastline is all tier 3. There is a weak spot, which, funnily enough, as I came back earlier this morning to have a look on the top left area here. So basically, if you were approaching from the western beachhead, the point that's closest to the town base was a weak spot. Now they built that up, but judging by the construction and the damage, I don't think it was rebuilt up all the way to tier 3 by the time of the invasion. But we'll get there in a second here. So this is all facing the western side. That's the opposite beachhead, all conked up. So just why we made the decision to hit the eastern side. So now we're watching footage from the western beachhead. This is still, once again, the Wednesday reconnaissance op, the initial reconnaissance. So we have here, there's a second line of defenses further up north. They have this set up right here. So all tier 3 howitzer garrisons, this is Protoss area on the far northern end, which is the place that we don't want to go. There's nothing important here that we want to hit. We want to go straight for the town base. More tier 3, and then spread out along this area. This is the same point where I showed in the previous clip. It was the same area, but now we're facing it from the opposite end. All tier 3 on that end. Moving forward, toolboxes. Now, regarding the range of the coastal gun, when I pull up my map again, I'll try point out what the extent of the range is. But as you can see, this is what we're looking at on Wednesday. And this is why we decided to go to the eastern side. There you see the two lone pieces there from the opposite end. And we continue forward. Okay. So this right here is what if we were to approach the western side contingency-wise, this right here is all that's standing between us and the town base, because right in front here at the crossroad junction is where the town base is. And this, I'm assuming, is what is prompted the response from KSR prior to the main operation when they said that they couldn't break through, which at the same point doesn't make any sense because we're not supposed to be attacking this beachhead. But yeah, okay, so there's the Bob Core from the eastern side right there. So town base is right there, right in front on that side of it. So this is the way the picture looks like on Wednesday. So I'm going to show the clip from this morning, which is the... Hang on, is this the right one? Yes, okay. So once again here, this morning after the battle, after invasion, approaching from the eastern side. I'm considering what KSR told me, they said that they couldn't breach the defenses on this side because it was too heavily built up, and that the destroyer didn't have enough firepower, and that the postponement of 24 hours was to get the battleship ready in order to break through these defenses. This is what I'm seeing here on this side here as we arrive on Monday. Let me kill the audio. Okay. So this is the Bob core right here, right? I'm gonna get a little bit closer, and then I'm gonna have to cut to another clip. Oh, god damn it. Oh, I've skipped. Sorry. Okay. Okay, right there. So that's the Bob core right there. There were the concrete pieces that we saw earlier. They've been built up into howitzer garrisons, of which only kind of looks like 2, maybe a third one behind is facing our way. Ops bunker here now. But in terms of raw defenses to engage armor and infantry, there's barely anything here. Yeah, let me continue on to the next clip then. It's barely anything there compared to what we saw on Wednesday, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. And this was supposed to be the main beachhead that we were going to assault. The defenses along the front here to the front and right, they're pretty much the same as they were in the initial reconnaissance. So the initial landing beachhead, as far as I can tell, shouldn't have given us any problems regarding shore bombardment or getting the troops in to breach the defenses. Which begs the question as to why we ended up still picking the western beachhead. And we're going to check what it is that we ended up shelling on the western beachhead as well. So this is the rest of the clip on the western side. Here's all the rest of the garrison houses and whatnot. Town base is right there. This is the opposite end again. So they built up howitzer garrisons on that far end. This is the double piece that was all alone. Here it's tier 2 only because this is what the shore bombardment destroyed. So we knocked out all those tier 3 pieces in the middle, right? And they've rebuilt it now to tier 2. But as I said before, the objective is to get to the town base. It's not important to destroy the ones in the middle of the beachhead because we can bypass them. There's plenty of space between those defenses and the beachhead, which they don't have the AI range to engage unless you shoot them, of course. But there's plenty of room to maneuver, and I forgot to point out when the map was open on the other side, but there is the same situation as it is on this side on the eastern beachhead. The coastal gun range is limited. There's only a short section on the southern end where it can reach the barges and the landing craft. Just further up there, it's completely fine. And once you land your assault forces there, you just walk along the beachhead and it won't. You're pretty good. You're fine all the way until you reach that bunker section on the southern end there. So now let's continue to the other side. So this is the western beachhead here. So you can see all of these were tier 3, but now they've all been knocked out and rebuilt to tier 2. They still haven't counted up yet. As we proceed down here, so this is where most of the major bombardment from the battleship occurred. Oh, actually, no, that's incorrect. There was a big bombardment further north at Protoss, which is right about here. So this is the northern end here. And you can see this has all been destroyed, dehusked. They rebuilt the core right there. Ops bunker. There were a lot more pieces along that end there that you saw. But as we said before, the objective is the town base at Axehead. Why the majority of the shore bombardment was projected onto the middle and the north, I do not know, and I do not understand. And I hope to God that everything that I'm seeing here was not the case on Saturday, because that would mean that when the report came in that we were unable to break through the defenses with the shore bombardment was because you picked the strongest point of the defenses, the one where we weren't supposed to go to, and tried shelling that. Yeah, I've got nothing else to say on that part. We'll just have a look at the most southern end, the big bunker piece section that we needed to break through in order to get to the town base. Here we have a look there. It didn't look like to me that we did much because it's still all tier 3 and it doesn't look wet on this end here. Let me kill the audio again. Okay. Okay, so this is the call from the other side, the double up area. Okay, so here's the lone 2 pieces. And this right here is the main section that should have been destroyed if we were to engage here from the western side. As I've said, if you can see right here, there's plenty of room to maneuver. That doesn't warrant the destruction of the entire length of that bunker piece section on the length of this beachhead. The ones that are directly north and east of me, northeast and east of my position right now, my character, that one you could justify that needed to be done because in the event that a stray shot gets shot, any kind of push that's going across this end here would be in range. But yeah, if we come over here, this is the main section right here. Now, this is all tier 3 and they don't look wet, so this is still all stationary, which means that this was not touched. And this right here, these tier 2 defenses, these was the ones that we saw that were like partially decayed in the Wednesday operation. They look pretty much in very similar state. Yeah, that's all that's stopping us. Well, not entirely true. There's the Bob Corps on the other end, which doesn't have any rifle garrisons pointing this. I mean, machine gun garrisons of pointing this way. There's only like 1 or 2 rifle garrisons, and that's about it on the other end of this road. Town base is off here to the southeast, and there's at least 1 or 2 G houses right to the right here. But that's about it. Okay, so we'll recap that. Okay, so that was the initial postponement of 24 hours that KSR called that we needed the battleship to do that. So okay, fine. We postponed it 24 hours, and then we got to Sunday. Now, once we got to Sunday, several things occurred. The first thing that occurred was that I found out from a message that Raid sent on one of the other uh, coalition Discord servers, the one that wasn't CENC, but it was trying to get all of the Navy regiments in the Eastern Theater together. They put out a message where they set out the timetable of what was occurring. And in that timetable, there was an extra operation that was occurring 2 hours prior to the H hour that we had agreed upon on Saturday. And it basically said that KSR was going to take their battleship and the destroyer out for a pre-op bombardment on Axehead, which I do not understand the reason why. Because if you're going to do that, we lose the element of surprise. They're going to know exactly where we're going to go, and they know we're going to be coming soon. They would be prepared. And from what I saw is that they were going to bombard the western beachhead, which I don't understand why that was the case. I contacted Roxu. He wasn't aware of the change in plans. In fact, as I've talked to him earlier after the operation, he wasn't aware of a lot of things that changed just prior to operation and during the operation, which we will get to here. But that was a pre-op bombardment 2 hours prior, which what happened in the end during the operation was they went to Morgan's Crossing to destroy the bridge there, which automatically, if we were the wardens, we know that that we would be staging a major operation somewhere else that was outside of the bridge zone, whether it be Morgan's or Exit. But considering that we have already conducted pre-bombardment on Exit the day before, which shouldn't have been done, and follow up an hour after the destruction of the bridge back on Exit. I mean, come on, guys. Like, what were we doing at this point? We had the battleship ready. We had the destroyer. They went out. Now, I wasn't aware, as I said, about this until several hours just before they decided to take off, which I raised the concern that you better make sure you bring your own gunboat escorts because I'm not going to change the time again for my guys, right? Because every time we've tried these massive fleet operations, we've changed the time many, many times. Everyone's getting sick and tired of it, and morale is pretty low. So I'm not going to push it 2 hours forward just to screen an operation which I do not agree with that was going to blow our cover. So thankfully, they brought along, I think, 1 or 2 gunboats along with them, which is good. It was not enough considering how much firepower a gunboat swarm can deal to a large ship, especially a destroyer. It was a risky maneuver that should not have been pulled off because if they had got swarmed, things could have gone sideways really, really fast. But we got lucky in that regard that there wasn't no real naval QRF presence from the wardens throughout this operation. Not until the very end when they deployed a battleship. But this was a massive mistake here. I do not understand why it was that we changed the plan just before the operation itself, and no one else was informed with the changes. Yeah, I had faith with KSR because of how the battle at Tempest Islands the weekend prior occurred because we worked really well in that battle. I mean, we were outnumbered, we were outgunned. It was important that we won that engagement, otherwise the rest of the invasion fleet couldn't have gotten to exile. And everything went fine there. Comms were completely fine. Maneuvering multiple ships into the engagement all worked out really well. But other than that, moving forward now, considering what I know and what has happened here, gonna have to reevaluate my position regarding any other future operations with the rest of the coalition because we are making the same mistakes over and over again. It's getting really, really tiring. Okay, so that's the pre-op maneuvers that occurred that me and Roxu were not informed of. Okay, so now we get to the big one, the one that we raised multiple times and we tried to rectify. And it's really concerning considering what Roxu told me. So his English isn't his first language, right? They're all Polish. So I couldn't quite understand what he was trying to tell to me because I was really pissed off at him at that point. Like, we had planned all this, we had gotten everybody together. Why didn't we get everybody onto the same comm system that we had before, which worked out fine? I had to decipher his message and then he had to clarify it again. The reason why there was only one other person on the Gilded call with me at the time was because there was nobody else that had Gilded. And from his message that he wrote, his words uh, regarding the base ship and the storage ship guys, they refused to get on Gilded. And I'm assuming that was the same story with the rest of the large ships that were coming along. Because basically, just before the operation, we had a massive fleet. We had 2 battleships and at least 4 to 5 destroyers that were coming along, which was much larger than what the main fleet was that was part of the coalition, basically. But what happened was is that one of the Marine regiments pulled out last second. The extra battleship and destroyer support, they said they were going to come along and help, but they just bailed in terms of comms as the operation started. They just went complete radio silent. Roxu didn't know where they were, they had no communication with them whatsoever. For those that were part of the operation, these were the follow-on forces that came in after our battleship got shot to shit and left. We got the rotation there with the second battleship and destroyers. Yeah, they were all informed of the operation and that what it was that we wanted to do. But as it started, everyone just refused to communicate and just went off and did their own thing. So the queues all went to shit there. Not that we had technically planned against them, but it would have been nice, if we could get some coordination regarding the rotation of the ships and the crews in and out of the hex so that we don't get bottlenecks. But it didn't matter in the end because of what I'm about to talk next regarding the amphibious assault itself. But yeah, that was the reason why I couldn't communicate with the fleet because there was no fleet to communicate with. It was just me, Stalker, and the bad part is that he was not the important one that I needed to talk to because he's already got his own destroyer and 2 gunboats that are supporting him, right? And he's gone off an hour or 2 earlier before we even leave port to go shoot up the bridge and the defenses on Axehead. Okay, fine, no problem. What's important is that my guys and my gunboat have communication with the storage and the base ship because we need to screen them against any incursion, right? Any scouts that pick up where we are going, where we're headed, and of course, as we see later, an actual gunboat that gets inside our invasion fleet, and I'm pretty sure they knocked out 2 barges with tanks, which is those are kind of losses that we can't hope to sustain if they had, jumped us with a gunboat swarm. We would have been wiped out. So we got lucky there. Um, but yeah, this is the story behind the lack of communication with the rest of the fleet and the coordination. There was no way this was going to work, considering what we know now. But at the time, as we were going into it, it seemed that we still had a chance to pull it off. But yeah. Okay, so here is a picture of the point where the base ship and storage ship set up. So they have watchtower coverage, as you can see here, once they deploy. And as you can see, the beach is already blue. Now you can't see all the dots because of the range that they're set up, but about 10 minutes later, they redeploy the ship further north and further to the east, so they get pretty good coverage of this. And the destroyers also come in along closer to the edge of the shoreline here and get radio coverage over it. And this whole beach, by the point that we reach here with our amphibious forces, are completely blue. They're just swarming with water and infantry. They're not even hiding behind the defenses. They're right on the beach. Now, I don't quite buy it if anyone tries to blame it on the lack of screening for the invasion fleet, and we'll get to that why in a bit because I've got some words to say about that. But the time in which we got spotted, which was around about here after we had crossed the border, all right, gunboat came in, knocked out 2 tanks. We dealt with it. The time from here to here is less than 3 minutes at best. The big ships, even though they're very unmaneuverable, they are pretty fast in straight lines. So getting up here from there, it didn't take that long at all. There's no way in hell that 50 wardens QRF spawn, randoms as we know how the game works. It's just the intel chat starts being filled up with red, everyone asks to spawn on exit, and then one by one, people start redeploying from the back lines or any of the other front lines where things aren't going well. There's no way 50 guys spawn in by the time we set up the ships here to hit the beaches, and they're already waiting here with tanks and armor. There's no way. As far as I'm concerned, the pre-op bombardment plus the destruction of the bridgehead, that all gave it away, and they were all prepared and waiting for us. And as I said before, this is the wrong beachhead. We're not supposed to be attacking this side here. We're supposed to be attacking this one here. The coastal gun range only reaches up to this area here. There's only one bunker piece section, which is the one I showed you in the clips just now. Yeah. Moving on. Okay, yeah, I think I covered all of the really bad things regarding the communications and the strategy and the changes in the operation. So we go with the problems with the landing itself. Now I'm going to make another video just analyzing the strategic and the operational problems that we need to overcome with regarding naval operations. That one's going to be its own separate video I'm going to do later. But just the main points regarding this here operation. Like I said, element of surprise completely lost because they were waiting with everybody and anybody on that beach, and we couldn't get off the beach yet. The shore bombardment and the amphibious assault forces, they weren't coordinated because they were shooting one place and we wanted to go to another. Don't know what happened there. This point here was raised twice. So K4, after the operation, he comes and tells me he gives me his take and analysis. And I have experience regarding the Q things, which I will discuss again in the other video I'm going to make. The other person that brought it up was Chris on my gunboat, who pointed it out. We are at a significant disadvantage whenever we're attacking in an amphibious operation like this, because of the player queue system. I'll go in depth in the separate video that I'm going to make. But basically, this is why the point that I raised at the very start of this video is important. You've got to get it done within at least 20 minutes. Because if you don't, we're outnumbered on that beachhead. Because we need to man the battleships, the destroyers, the gunboats, all the screens. We need to be able to defend them from any naval counterattack. Which means that half or up to a third of our population in the hex is now dedicated to just that, just defense and shore bombardment as well. We need the guns to break the defenses, which means any kind of amphibious assault force that hits the beaches is going to be outnumbered. All right, which is why we needed to have the element of surprise to go in, hit the enemy before the QRF comes, and the window of that is around about 10 to 20 minutes. It's 15 in best case scenario. I know this because I've been part of major operations where we tried to attack and tap town bases that were heavily defended with defenses on unsuspecting fronts. Basically, I've been there before, which is the reason why I brought up the CV situation, because several times we got all the way there but didn't have a CV. It's just absolutely crazy. But yeah, it is possible because I know how it is. If you have the element of surprise, if you screen your attack force properly, which is possible, it is very difficult. But the guys in my regiment have done it many times before on land, and we have been able to do it on sea. Regarding, if you want proof of that, you can see how we performed on the previous operation on the weekend. It is possible to set a screen properly, granted that we know where everybody is at all points in time and understand what their intentions are. If we are able to communicate, it can be done. It's very difficult. The skill ceiling on that is high, but it can be done, and we have done it. So long as we can set the screen, keep the fleet hidden right up until the point of attack, you have a good 10 to 15 minutes where we will have the advantage in terms of population. Basically, we outnumber the enemy at the point of contact on the beach. So you time that with the shore bombardment, which with 150 millimeter cannons against tier 2 and tier 3 shouldn't take more than a few minutes to break through. I mean, you only need 10 hits. I mean, granted, 10 direct hits. But considering how close you can get with a battleship to the defenses, because the AI doesn't shoot large ships, except for the howitzer garrisons, those do. You have plenty of time to hit the bunker section, especially the sections that we pointed out that were on the beachheads, both on the western and the eastern sides. There should have been not much problem in that regard of getting that done. Now, whether or not we actually succeed in getting through all the way to town base, that's, a million and one things could happen that goes wrong at that point. But technically speaking, mechanically speaking, it is very much possible. And if we had done it right, I'm pretty confident that we could have pulled it off. But yeah, that at that point right here, this thing is really limiting any kind of major naval and amphibious operation. Trying to do it the way the devs planned it out, where basically the base ship and the storage ship act as a normal front line on a normal front on land, it just doesn't work due to the player pop cap. Because on a naval operation, we need shore bombardment and screens to protect the fleet, and that takes up a ton of manpower. So yeah, there's that. And also, of course, the coordination part, that was another one. As far as I can tell, the infantry, the armor weren't well coordinated, and the shore bombardment, that was completely botched as well. So that happened there. Okay, so that basically covers all of the big picture stuff, which most of the people wanted to know. I hope I covered all of the behind the scenes stuff the way that I understand it now, after talking with Roxu. Um, and of course, I filled in the points of view where nobody else knew or understood, because I'm the only one with the main comms to the rest of the fleet and the entire regiment. So there's that. If anybody has any questions regarding some of the big picture stuff, if I left it out, you just DM me and I'll explain what happened there. But I think I've got all the important points across. So just to wrap up the video, this is the 4th Naval Division specific stuff. So regarding our regiment, the comms need just a little bit more work, but if we're going to be perfectly honest, right, it's no one's fault in this part, because at this point in the war, we had already suffered a lot of burnout. I think about a third of the officer corps is offline and on break. At this point for the invasion, life gets in the way, so another third of the officer corps couldn't make it to the start of the operation to lead anything. So I had to resort to Disaster, which was ready and willing, and Disaster performed exceedingly well for the first time as a recon commander. I mean, from his point of view, it probably looked like he didn't do much. It was quite boring, but I'm gonna continue here regarding the screens and how they worked. He quarterbacked the play just as well as anybody else has up to this point for his first time out. Now, K4 stepped up to the plate to command the second gunboat. Now, K4 had only commanded a gunboat once prior to this, which was the very first major operation which we conducted in the Western Theater. The one where we got to shot the shit in the first 15 seconds of the engagement. So his command experience is quite limited in that. He has done a lot of reconnaissance before. The problem is that I gave him, and this is my fault here, because I thought that the roster that I gave him was a pretty good overall, well-rounded veteran crew, but it wasn't the case. The helmsman I gave him was green, and they had a lot of problems with the maneuvering and the communication on that end, which meant that every time that I tried to communicate with K4 on TeamSpeak, half the time I didn't know what was going on his end, because he had to manage his boat a lot. And for those that have tried a shot at commanding a gunboat, understand that once you get into multi-ship operation, it gets extremely hectic. The reason why combat comms is important, because you've got like 4 different people talking to you at the same time. It's very difficult to take in everything and then respond in quick succession to all of the people that are talking to you at the same time. I mean, if you want to see how that works, you got to watch the after action reports that I posted earlier. Specifically, the one for the Java Sea. That one was the most hectic, with all the big battle, all the big engagements going on with multiple ships at the same time. So you can go watch that. So it's a very minor detail. That's what I'm trying to point out here. It's something to work on. It's just something that we need to practice at, which I have the absolute confidence that we can figure out and overcome in no time. Okay, just to recap what we were doing, we were fleet defense. We were supposed to set the screens, be the eyes of the fleet, this, that, and the other. Here's the only engagement that we have. Now, this is why the communications is important, because the base ship and storage ship don't have watchtower transmissions as they are traversing the sea. It's only when they deploy that's when you get watchtower coverage. Which means, considering that the rest of the barges, nobody brought a radio backpack. And even then, if you did bring a radio backpack, I'm pretty sure it doesn't transmit whilst you're on a large ship. Need to double check that. But basically, the entire invasion fleet, I had no idea where they were. Now, at this point in time, I have communication with Stalker, right? He's the battleship commander. We had grouped up at Lies Haven. We had got everybody together at Lies Haven. The battleship force that went off for the pre-bombardment, they came back, refueled, rearmed at Lies Haven. The invasion fleet, which took a long time to prepare, which I guess I should cover that part here. If we're going to postpone an operation for 24 hours, there's no reason as to why we're going to be late for that H-hour, right? Here at 4th Naval, it's important that we get everybody prepared and ready to go, because once it's bad for morale if we wait 2 hours, right, for an operation that should have been prepped days in advance. And it's also bad because everyone has limited playtime, all right? So this is like a tactical and operational thing that needs to be figured out. Because if we waste the time of our guys in this prepping and staging, that means we have less available manpower for the actual combat, which is important. That's where we need it the most. So yeah, that's a point I wanted to raise there. But okay, going back to this engagement here, we had grouped everybody up. The battleship was with the invasion fleet, and we all set off together. Well, not together. As usual, our gunboats are out in front doing the screening job and this, that, and the other. We had chased off a scout that had almost gotten into contact west of Lies Haven. Chased that off, killed him. That was all great. A second scout came by from the north here, but as far as I can tell, that he bypassed that. He bypassed the main ship. He didn't see them regarding the course that he took. So that was okay. But here, once the gunboat comes in here, this is when things go really wrong. So I only have communication with Stalker, which is in the battleship. As far as I can tell, because we are not with the fleet, we're out in front screening. They're all moving together. They did not move together. The battleship once again went off on its own, leaving the invasion fleet on its own. So when I'm talking to Stalker and he's telling me that he's already at the beachhead shelling them, I'm like, oh, okay, that means everyone must be behind him, about to set up and hit the beaches. That was not the case. The invasion fleet was still on the other side of the border in Tempest Islands, which meant that when I first got the call of this gunboat that's right here, which we did, so good props to Disaster was spawning the gunboat, making the screen. He didn't get killed. Me and K4 were already setting the screen up to the south of the battleship, which means we are out of position to defend the landing ship fleet. Once the cargo comes in, I'm not in any rush to engage it yet, because I want to set my screen up closer to the fleet, if that makes sense, which I'm assuming at this point in time in my head is with the battleship that's on the western beachhead of Axehead. Which means right here the invasion fleet gets caught out of gets caught out in the open, and we have to respond very quickly here. So let me just put that here to the audio. There's a gunboat behind us. So that's where Disaster calls in the gunboat, and he's called it in a good 2 minutes prior to this. So I'm communicating to K4 right now, who doesn't have all the full picture. At this point I'm still struggling to keep K4 in formation with me so that we don't get split up and get caught out in a 2-on-1 situation. But yeah, okay, let me continue. So he's having trouble maneuvering here. I suggest you turn left. You're heading into the coastal gun.
Gunboat or on our landing ship's position. I repeat.
I don't know where you are.
Yeah, I'm giving you right now. F14, F14-1, F14-1.
Helm all hit. K4, you need to get on to me as fast as possible. So right here, as I said at the very start, no, everyone else refused to get on the comm system. So Roxu, being the diplomat that he is, basically the compromise he has is that he's going to stay with the landing ship guys, so that in the event that he needs to communicate, he can communicate with everybody else. But I don't have any direct communication with Roxu. The only thing we can do here is, as you see here, do it old school, where he switches the channels himself manually from one and one to another, which is too slow. I mean, not only is it slow, it means that you can only communicate to me in times of urgency or in times of an emergency of some kind like this. That's what's going on here. Because, as I said, I don't know where the fleet is. I assume they were in front of us to the north, but they're not. They're behind us. And that gunboat contact, which we already had early warning 2 minutes ago, I didn't transmit that position to them because I didn't know where they were, and I already assumed that they were with the battleship. And they don't know where I am, so they can only call me in right now, right here, at this point in time, where we're on the opposite end of the enemy gunboat. So I called it in the K4 to try to get around, steer clear from the coastal gun. We are heading back towards the invasion fleet to get close. And here. Hard left rudder, helm making course bearing 130. Rocks, where's that gunboat? Okay, I got eyes. Helm hard left rudder, make a course bearing 126. Contact gunboat bearing 144, range 200. We need to get around the barge. Hard left rudder, make a course bearing 120. Hard right rudder. Hard right rudder. Contact bearing 175. Continue hard right rudder. Gunner target bearing 175, range 60. Stationary. Helm make a course bearing 200. All ahead. Starboard. Port side gunner, stand by to engage. Fire, will. Slow. All stop. Rings alongside. All stop. Broadside. Fire. Reverse. All reverse. Continue fire. So right there, it was very impressive maneuvering because we didn't hit any of the barges. We scraped alongside the storage ship, but that's a very minor detail. But considering how most maneuvering occurs, and especially the problems that K4 had on his boat for the operation, very few people can pull this one off. So where we managed to react to a threat that was actively engaging our friendly forces here. We got in, around, and behind a massive barge fleet. We came right alongside textbook style broadside onto a water gunboat, and perfect maneuvering from Red, where he uses a trick where he jumps out of the driver's seat to do an emergency stop and then get back in, keeping us broadside on. We've got 2 guns to his 1 heavy mortar turret. I mean, this is as good as it gets. The only problem, and it's a very slight problem here, and it's not anyone's real fault, but the port side gunner here, he hops off the gun to throw a sticky nade. That because I think he ran out of ammo at that point. That is incorrect form. If you're a gunner, you stay on the gun. It doesn't matter if you're out of ammo or if you get shot off, right? You stay on the gun and then just reload it and start shooting. The person that needs to throw the sticky nade here is the opposite side gunner because he's got nothing to shoot at and he's not doing anything. So he can leave his position, come over to the other side, throw his nade. Same goes for like the watchman. If we're this close, throw a nade, no problem. But yeah, that's the only slight problem there. But yeah, good stuff to learn. So that pretty much wraps it up for the after action report. Hopefully it didn't go too long this time.